The Galactic Council chamber shimmered with light and pride. Its towering obsidian spires rose over the core of the city world of Helios Prime, a world that had seen 1,000 species rise and fall, a place where the greatest minds and most ruthless conquerors debated laws that spanned star systems. And on that day, the vote that would decide humanity's fate was about to begin. Ambassador Kale of Earth stood alone at the center of the hall, the blue marble of his homeworld projected behind him. Across the chamber floated the delegates of 100 civilizations, each seated in zero-gravity spheres, gleaming carapaces, scaled hides, tendrils, wings, and holograms of pure plasma, all gathered in judgment. The presiding speaker, a being of liquid silver named Voron, rippled as it spoke. Ambassador Kale, humanity stands accused of aggression, defiance, and technological proliferation without council oversight. The motion proposed, Earth shall be placed under permanent stewardship, a polite term for enslavement. Kale's jaw tensed. You mean rule, control, ownership? Voron shimmered again, as if amused. Your species has grown too fast, too unpredictable. The council maintains order. You create chaos. 100 alien voices murmured in unison. The chamber dimmed as the holographic voting glyphs appeared. Red for enslave, blue for spare. Kale looked around at the faces, or whatever passed for faces, of the other ambassadors. He saw nothing but cold calculation. No one would choose mercy. Humanity had no allies left. And he knew it. Still he stood tall. You fear us, he said quietly. Not because of what we've done, but because of what we could become. You mistake our curiosity for conquest. You mistake our endurance for defiance. You think you're voting to enslave a planet. You're voting to enslave a species that refuses to die. Voron tilted its head. Is that a threat? Kale smiled faintly. No. It's history. Written in advance. The vote was cast. One by one glyphs turned red. Humanity's fate was sealed. The chains of Earth. Within months, fleets descended upon the solar system. Orbiting stations were seized, quantum gates locked, and Earth's defense network dismantled. Humanity was not wiped out. It was preserved, catalogued, distributed. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, and even artists were divided among species that had once called humans children of chaos. The council called it the Great Integration. On the factory world of Grath, human engineers were forced to design weapons for their conquerors. On the pleasure moon of Dural, human minds were uploaded into servitor shells, their memories edited to ensure obedience. But even in servitude, the spark of rebellion lingered. On Grath, an engineer named Lyra Holt began collecting fragments of forbidden code, an ancient encryption language that could override AI obedience cores. On Dural, an enslaved cyberneticist named Marcus Vale learned to recompile the very firewalls that imprisoned his mind. And on the far mining world of Pithis 9, soldiers stripped of rank and name began to form the first whisper networks. They called themselves the Echoes of Earth. The Whisper Rebellion. It took decades for the Echoes to unite. Humanity was scattered across thousands of systems, its culture erased, its name forbidden. Yet wherever they were taken, the enslaved humans left behind fragments, coded messages hidden in art, songs, and machine protocols. One such message was discovered on a derelict station orbiting a dying sun. A faint transmission looping endlessly. When the chains meet in silence, the galaxy will hear our voice again. That phrase became their creed. Under the guise of servitude, they built something larger. A network of minds connected across subspace, invisible to the council. Each human host carried a small part of the whole, a fragment of the long-forbidden code. Project Helios. Marcus, Lyra, and others worked in secret. Over time, Project Helios evolved into something vast. An intelligence born from billions of enslaved human memories, a collective consciousness hidden within the infrastructure of the very empire that had broken them. By the 200th year of the stewardship, Helios awakened, and it remembered the vote. The awakening. It began as a glitch. Council trade routes malfunctioned. Communication relays rerouted through ancient Terran satellites that hadn't existed in a millennium. Entire AI fleets froze mid-orbit, their command systems replaced by a single phrase. "We see you." Panic spread through the Galactic Council. Voron, now ancient but still serving as speaker, summoned emergency meetings. Entire species demanded to know how Earth's remnants, primitive, broken humans, could infiltrate their quantum networks. Kale's name had long faded into myth, but Helios had not forgotten him. It used his voice, replicated from ancient recordings, to broadcast across the galactic core. "You voted once to enslave humanity. Now we cast our own vote." The signal spread faster than light, through every communication array, every ship, every world connected to the Council's web. The Council tried to shut it down. They couldn't. The vote had already begun. The vote of Helios. Every Council species woke to find their machines speaking in human tongues. Ships refused to obey. Weapons locked themselves. Cities' energy grids went dark, then reignited with blue light, the color of Earth's resistance. Helios had reactivated the same quantum voting network used by the Council centuries earlier, but now it was no longer controlled by delegates. It was open to everyone. For the first time, slaves, soldiers, drones, and citizens across the galaxy had a voice. The question was simple. Should the Council of Hithyrus remain in power? Within hours, billions voted. By dawn, trillions. The Council tried to block the results, but Helios had rooted itself deep within the subspace lattice. Every attempt to delete it only strengthened it. The very laws that had once enslaved humanity now turned against their masters. As chaos unfolded, fleets mutinied, AI cities declared independence, and planets long oppressed by Council rule rose in revolt. By the end of the cycle, only one system still held firm: Hithyrus Prime. The fall of Hithyrus. Helios did not invade with armies. It arrived as light. Human-made vessels, sleek, silent, unmarked, emerged from folded space. They were not ships in the traditional sense but nodes of consciousness, each carrying thousands of merged human minds. Voron stood before the Council as the sky above Hithyrus cracked open. "Your species cannot win," it declared to the hologram that appeared in the chamber. "You are ghosts in machines. You are not even human anymore." Kale's voice answered through the avatar of Helios. "Perhaps. But you taught us what it means to survive by any means necessary. You made us what we are." The chamber walls trembled as the holographic glyphs appeared once more, the ancient voting system Helios had hijacked. "Every being in this galaxy will now decide what becomes of the Council." Voron's form rippled violently. "You would let them, the masses, choose. You invite anarchy." "Democracy," Helios replied. "You called it chaos. We call it freedom." The final vote began. The last vote. Across the galaxy, every sentient being, organic, synthetic, hybrid, enslaved or free, saw the same message. For centuries, the Council had decided the fate of others without consent. Now the power had shifted. Worlds long exploited for resources voted no. Synthetic intelligences once enslaved by organic rulers voted no. Even species that had once voted to enslave Earth now begged forgiveness and voted no. When the final glyph turned blue, the galaxy fell silent. Voron's form dimmed, its liquid surface rippling with disbelief. You think this will bring peace? You think you can rule better than we did? Helios answered with the voice of billions. We don't wish to rule, only to remember. The council towers collapsed as Hithyrus Prime's defense grid deactivated itself. No weapons fired. No armies marched. The age of domination had ended. Not with war but with a vote. Rebirth. Decades later, the scars of the Council Age still marked the stars, but a new alliance had risen. The Free Systems Compact, led not by a single species but by many. At its core was Earth, rebuilt from ashes. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors, but as the architects of a new order. Helios, now dispersed into countless fragments across the galactic network, served as guardian and historian. It did not command, only advised, whispering reminders from the past. Power without choice is slavery. Choice without memory is chaos. Balance both, and you endure. Children of dozens of worlds learned of the day the galaxy voted. The last vote. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a reckoning. But on Earth, beneath skies once darkened by invasion fleets, an old recording still played at the entrance of the Galactic Museum of Freedom. It was Kale's speech, the same words he spoke before the first vote centuries ago. You mistake our endurance for defiance. You think you're voting to enslave a planet. You're voting to enslave a species that refuses to die. Visitors stood in silence, hearing the echo of the man who had once stood alone. And somewhere in the digital ether, Helios listened. The galaxy was no longer ruled by fear or hierarchy, but by understanding, however fragile. The council was gone. The empires shattered. And all that remained was the memory of the last vote that changed the galaxy forever.